Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. So as some of you guys might already know, I've played a couple of games against the hardest AI on the channel. The first time I showed you guys how to rush it and beat it in 22 or 23 minutes with an archer rush. And the second time I played it, I let it boom for 30 minutes so that it could get a proper economy, and it turned into a pretty big late game slugfest. This time I increased the difficulty again, and I'm going to play against 3 of them at once, though I am going to allow myself to rush them. So I'm going to be playing as Ethiopians, we'll talk a bit about them, and I'm just going to put all 3 of them on the same team, hardest AI on Arabia, and just basically the standard settings that you would play online. So 300 population, low resources, all that. So let's check it out. And I always like going green as Ethiopians. I don't know, I get certain colors for civilizations that I really dig. And so here, again, just going to do the basic things I always do, which is queue up some villagers at the town center, put down a couple houses, and bring in some sheep, explore with the scout, and get the sheep exploring, though don't let them get too far because they are going to be needed pretty soon. Don't tell them what we need them back for, but their sheep should be coming back at some point. And so Ethiopians, the reason I've chosen them is I have done a Civ overview on them recently, so they're pretty fresh. But the other side to it is I know I'm going to go for an archer rush. I just find it's the most effective strategy I have against the AI. It's a pretty good one in general, and Ethiopians have a great one. I don't know if I would say the best. I kind of like the Britons maybe a little bit more because I like the extra range that they get, especially in Castle Age. But a couple of things. So you have faster firing archers, and you also have the extra resources when you advance. So there's a few nice things, and they also have really good siege. I love that. So lots of reasons I'm really digging the Ethiopians these days. Now, I don't think it showed up there on the recording, but the enemy civilizations, the AIs, in the blue we had the Magyars, or Magyars, however you want to say it, and sort of a cavalry and cavalry archer sort of civilization. Generally more of a late game sort of is their strength, I would say. And you could go for like a scout rush, but the AI doesn't really do that. I'm more afraid of the elite Magyar Hussar coming out at some point. And the other 2 civilizations for red and yellow are actually very similar civilizations. They're Teutons and Slavs, which I would say are both infantry civilizations that have really good siege, and also monks, which you always have to watch out for with the AI. And they also, actually there's even more similarities now that I think about it, because they have really good heavy cavalry, and both of them don't really have very good archers, and actually they both have farming bonuses as well. But I would say neither of them are really top tier in the early game, though I would say all 3 have quite a strong late game. And so part of the strategy is to make sure that I'm knocking them out and that I don't let the game get to that post-imperial stage against 3 AIs. Kind of explored a little bit too much with that sheep there, but we'll send them back. And I did find the other 2 sheep. And so that's nice. It's a little late to be finding those sheep, and luckily my 2 boar right together. There's no hills. I always hate luring boar over top of hills. And just before I get the question, so if you're wondering about the little flags and how to do that, I always get one of those in every video. You just hold down shift and you click a bunch with your right click on the mouse, and then you lift up on the last one when you finish off the flags. And at some point maybe I'll stop getting questions about that, but I don't think everybody knows that trick yet. And not the best boar lure, but I did manage to not lose a villager there, and I still don't have loom. I'd just like to push that off as much as possible. And any other decisions, I think. Oh yeah, so the reason I put the lumber camp on the left and not the bottom, which is because there were more trees on the left there. I know some people might have picked the bottom there. I also don't like, because I have the big trees, I don't use the small trees mod. I prefer not to have the trees to the south of my camp. And I know many people are just going to say, get the small trees mod, but I don't really like the look of it, and I'm not that serious of a player, so I don't really worry about the little things like that. And you'll notice that I'm selecting villagers to drop off the food. That's just so I can make sure I have 50 food to keep the next villager always coming out. Yeah, I don't know how much of this some of you guys know, but I just like to point all of it out, just because it's not usually the sort of stuff I talk about in videos. And sometimes you can get loom before that second boar. I think in this case, it's totally fine. And so I did decide that I was going to make 2 lumber camps. I don't usually like to have more than 5 or 6. Even 6 is kind of pushing it, kind of like 4 to 5 villagers per lumber camp. Or I find they sort of trap each other. And pretty good timing there. I think just as that boar finished up, the other one came in. If you find that's not happening for you consistently, my rule is somewhere between 90 and 100 food left on the first boar. If the second one is that far, then if it's a little further, you'll adjust to maybe 130 food left on the first boar before you grab the second one. And have not been housed yet this game, I would like to point out. So I'm still searching around for those last 2 sheep. You might remember I've only found 6, and you should start with 8 on every Arabia map. The last 2 aren't critical though. I mean, you want those first 4 obviously as quickly as possible, and then 2 more at some point. But I don't know, it's not a big deal if I don't find them, and actually I don't end up finding them. So whatever, I'm just sort of looking at these, and I do sort of cheat here. I'm just looking to see for myself where those sheep ended up being, because I've already sent my scout out. He's going to explore around the map, and it turned out they were right there. A little bit unfortunate, but I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to go grab those. In my mind, the sheep are gone. And that was just for my own sake. I was interested. Hopefully trying to develop my intuition of finding them a little bit better in the future. So like I said, that scout's just going to go around and he's going to check out everything. And I would like to advance with 23 villagers. That's sort of my archer rush at the moment. And so I'm going to send the last 2 over to gold. And then once that boar's finished up, I'll split most of the villagers onto wood and gold. And so you can see I still have 2 sheep just sitting there. I mean, I didn't really miss those last 2. And I don't think that's the best place to put that gold mine. I think I should have put it on the other side of the gold pile, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little efficiency thing. And I would like to get loom here. If I could advance right now, I would have, but I couldn't, so I'm just going to pick up loom, and that is going to help me send a villager forward. And I'm just checking out their civilizations there, seeing which one red was. So red was the Teutons, so I guess I'll just target him first. I'll even keep my scout there so I can explore his town a bit better. And so now, trying to keep the idle time to a minimum and going straight from the loom there. And I'm going to be sending some of these villagers on sheep off to gold and wood, because that's what I need for archers. I mean, a bit of food is great, but Ethiopians do also get an extra 100 food as soon as they advance. And all I need is enough to keep villagers coming, so I don't need very many. And you notice, I still have sheep right until the end there. And so first thing I have to do is get up a barracks, because as soon as I hit feudal, I want at least 1 archery range, and if I can put down 2, then that's great. And then afterwards, keep that villager, make some more houses. And the other thing to think about is getting a blacksmith at some point. And I noticed I was sort of blocking myself from future farms there. So moving those houses a little bit further away from the mill. And if you can, something I try to do is you try to use the houses to make a little wall. Although, now that I really think about this, looking back on this, I probably should have started the wall on the other side of the base, because this is now the side I'm going to be attacking, is going north up to red there. And I do know where his lumber camp is. I could have explored his base a little bit better, but I still have my scout, and my scout will just sort of figure out where I should be sending my archers. A little unfortunate there with the wolf, so I'm just going to channel my inner Obi-Wan Kenobi and grab the high ground there for the extra attack and defense bonus. Unfortunately, if the wolf strikes her down, she will not become more powerful. And so luckily I can even put down 2 archery ranges, so that worked out. And we're just going to keep exploring. I'm looking for a second wood line from the AI, so I'm definitely going to check out those wood lines, because I know it always makes, on hardest anyway, it always makes 2 lumber camps. Just like most players, I would say. That's pretty standard. And so just complete my wall there. I know I already have a lot of population space on the houses, but it's one of those things I always seem to hit it anyway once you start making archers. And so as soon as this is up, timing-wise, I'm okay so far. I just like to have started on the archery range by 12 minutes, and I'm already done one at 12:10, so that's pretty good timing for me. It's kind of helpful to have little benchmark times like that for yourself as well, I think. I didn't even have enough to put down the blacksmith. So now I need 7 or 8 on gold if I want to keep going with the archers, but usually I put a couple extra on, like maybe 9 or 10, just so that I can slowly accumulate gold and get enough to advance and get upgrades and all that. And I'm not going to send him in right away. I'm going to wait till I have 3 or 4, just because if he does have a unit there, I don't want to start losing them. I'm not sure what I was checking there. And you notice I do have 5 on berries. I'm sort of putting off starting the farms. I just need enough food to keep making villagers, and I don't really have the wood. As you can see, I've only got 7 left, and I just don't have the wood at this point to do everything I want, like make a bunch of farms. So new villagers, I think I have enough on gold now. We're gonna start walling up, and I'm gonna send more onto wood. So far, I don't know, I'm sure you guys are noticing mistakes, but so far this is going pretty smoothly for me. This is pretty much what it should be. It's about 14 minutes. I'm ready to go with my 4 archers. And for some reason the computer's name was weird. I might have been playing a scenario or something. It's Caputer P3. I don't know, that's a little weird. Anyway, so big targets right now is I am going to continue making archers, but with these guys I'm going to hit the wood line. And there's only 1 villager there. I thought that was kind of weird. And just going to kind of manage my economy a bit, start transitioning into farms. And I didn't have the scores up, sorry about that. Down the bottom right hand corner, I'm sure some of you guys noticed and like to look at that. I can't remember if I turned that on at some point. And luckily I can deny that stable. That does imply to me he's going for some kind of feudal scouts or something. And I kind of miscalculated how many shots he needed there. And so this is one strategy that's really effective against the AI and not so much online, is if you have a lot of archers and you've got the momentum, just put 1 archer on each resource and you basically deny that whole resource that they now have to build a new lumber camp or a new whatever. And so I put a few of them on his lumber camp. You can't use that anymore. The AI is especially stubborn about it, and they'll just keep sending villagers over there even though it's covered. And I'm gonna get those upgrades as I can. Sort of miscalculated my food a little bit. I probably should have had a farmer a little bit earlier or something. I think that might have been the sheep finally catching up with me. And so I can't get that armor upgrade quite yet. And I know you're thinking, why am I still building houses? And the answer is I just want to keep a villager doing that because I'm gonna forget, and it just reminds me to keep building them if every time I hit the idle key I see her again. So Red's economy seems to be in shambles at the moment, so I'm just putting my archers on stand ground, and we're just going to stay outside of the town center's range. Which is kind of cheeky, but they'll just stand there outside the range and then they'll shoot at his archers, or not his archers, his villagers as they come out of the town. And so as far as I'm concerned, Red's kind of on lockdown right now. I've even taken out, yeah, I don't know, it's just going pretty well. But it's not over yet. There are 3 of them, and so it's important to get one knocked out quickly like this, because the AI can really boom. The AI plays like a pretty weak player for the first 20 minutes in game, or maybe even first like 16 minutes, and then after that, I don't know, it can get pretty good. So you really want to take them out as soon as possible. And there's what I was really wondering early on, why do you only have 1 lumberjack? I was trying to figure out. I think that's why I checked. I was just double checking it was on hardest, because it seemed weird he'd only have 1 lumberjack. But they were just all on the other side. And I can finally start getting upgrades. Starting to think a little bit about Castle Age. Maybe not quite yet, but we're sort of getting there. So I'm going to put down the market, and that's just going to let me reshuffle my economy if I need to sell stone or if I need to buy something. And that's one nice thing about having a couple extra on gold, is I have some gold saved up that now, if I need to, I can buy whatever I need. And this is now way too many archers that I have here, so I'm going to start reshuffling them around, and I'm going to take some over, and we're going to go find the next AI. He goes Castle Age, that's so weird. Like, he wasn't even making anything defensive. I mean, what is he going to do with this? He doesn't even have a stable out, so I guess he's just going to make pikemen? Like, I don't know what his plan is. And I should probably stop making houses there, but whatever. Yeah, he's making spearmen, not even upgrade to pikes. This is where sometimes just blindly advancing can actually come back to hurt you. And I definitely get a threatening sense from that scout, and he definitely was going after me. The AI will attack you with scouts, it'll just wait till it's in a bit of trouble. And they're both Castle Age, so I'm Feudal Age, and this is what you gotta be a little bit careful of when you're fighting multiple opponents, is that you don't get stuck in an age just trying to knock out one of them. So I'm gonna leave a few there, and I'm definitely thinking about Castle Age right now. Just trying to get a lot of farms, not really worrying about exact placement here. And a stable, that would have been really bad if he got that up, because he would have made knights, and I could not handle knights right now, so I was quite lucky that I found that. I'll acknowledge that, that was lucky. And so we're just making archers. I should probably stop that pretty soon, but I do have enough gold to advance already. Yeah, it's so hard because it's hard to advance while you're also building units. So sometimes you try to stop units to advance faster. That's a really tough call to make in game though, and to know what the right decision is. And I'm just going to use the market to reshuffle things a bit so that we actually have enough to advance here. A bit too much food, but whatever, we're going up now. And hopefully he doesn't have too much, just spearmen, that's easy, I can micro, and then, oh snap, knights. So at this point I can probably take those, but I'm sort of regretting sending my feudal archers in here to fight against somebody who's been castle age for 3 minutes, or however long he's been castle. So we can focus those down. I'm not sure if he had the armor upgrades. And I'm going to continue making archers. Sometimes I stop while I'm advancing just so I can make sure I get the upgrades, but my economy seems pretty solid right now, so I think I can get those. The ones I really want are crossbow, thumb ring, and actually probably not in that order. Probably crossbow first, bodkin arrow from the blacksmith, and then thumb ring if I can afford it as well. But I really need that extra range. It really does make a big difference, especially against other crossbows. And just refreshing some lumber camps, keeping everything efficient. Gonna get some stone. Just because I do have a pretty interesting castle unit that I would love to use a bit later. And the AI is also not very smart about castles. It'll fight them with knights and archers and all sorts of stuff. So it's a nice little emergency thing. And even if you don't use it for that, stone's good for town centers. So it's always worth getting a little bit on your way up to castle if you can afford it. And the knights sort of stopped kind of early. I was a little surprised by that. I'm not sure what he's making instead, or if he's just saving them up. But I'm happy to pick off his spearmen. And you notice I have a lot of resources saved up right now. Just trying to sneak in a few more archers before hitting castle age when I'll get a bunch of upgrades. And I think she's got enough houses for now. Apparently all my people live in the suburbs just north of town. And I have tons of resources, so we're just going to get all the upgrades. And I hope I got the... maybe I didn't. Usually I get the wood upgrade right away as well. I guess I'm prioritizing town centers. Yeah, now I don't have enough for the wood upgrade. Oops. And just have to make sure we're not losing these units right now, because very soon they will be upgraded. And there they are. So now we have crossbows. I'm going to start sending more of them. They have the extra range, and they're about to have faster firing and 100% accuracy from thumb ring. But of course then there's the knights, and my barracks is in the totally wrong spot. But I do have free pikeman upgrades, so that's pretty handy as well. Just one more reason to like the Ethiopians. And so now I've got all of these guys. Yellow's in a bit of trouble. And not very smart of the computer to target my pikemen instead of, or whatever he's targeting. Is he targeting my farms? I don't know, but he should be going after my villagers. And he's kind of messing up my economy pretty bad there. That really would have been nice if I could get that town center up. You notice I brought a villager forward just in case I need her. Sort of forgot about my scout. And just getting miscellaneous upgrades. I do have those pikes coming in. I'm going to send the villagers back to work. This is sort of a mess. And I mean, you might think, wow, that was a lot of resources worth of knights, but I mean, think about the damage that this is doing to my economy to try to start this all up again, and all the villagers are going to the wrong thing, because I couldn't garrison them in that town center. I mean, that definitely hurt. Probably lost some resources that were dropped there in that process. Like by switching to a different resource, is what I mean. And so I'm trying to build a town center there in the front, just have a town center in his face. And one thing I think I did right was I didn't make too many pikes there. Sometimes, or at least early on, I probably would have just overqueued and made 15 in the barracks there. But just 5's enough to fight off something like that. And you don't want to waste all your food. And I do notice he's making monks. AI with monks always scare me. And luckily now Red's going to resign. So that's really nice because now I can take all of those crossbows and I can now have them join my other massive crossbows that I'm using against the Slavs up north. And you notice Blue's attacking me with more knights. I'm a little surprised he's not going for light cavalry as the Magyars. You would think that he would go for and take advantage of his discount, but I guess not. And a little late on wheelbarrow, kind of forgot about that. Speaking of farming economy and wheelbarrow, we'll start getting some farms out. Because I did find for most of this sort of mid-game here, I was quite low on food. Partly because of that night raid. And at some point it would also be nice to get ballistics. I'm getting a little sick of watching my guys miss every shot against moving units. But as far as I'm concerned, I've actually taken care of yellow pretty well. Yellow didn't put up the best fight. We'll just have those pikes patrol. I'm not really worried about losing the odd villager. That's fine. One thing I could be doing better is taking a bit more time making sure my town centers are always making villagers. And that's a nice spot for a castle, but as said, I'm going to put down a university so that I can get ballistics. Because I'm going very heavily into archers, and they haven't shown me yet that they have the proper counter units to that. I mean, it's going with stuff like monks, which is sort of a silly counter to crossbows. I think one-on-one, a monk might convert a crossbow, but overall it doesn't feel like a winning strategy. And you notice I'm not using town bell there, I'm just trying to take those specific villagers in the immediate area and just garrison those, and then I'll just send them back to work. And that's a lot of crossbows. And I find his gold, that's always pretty nice. And a little monk hidden back there in the forest. And so one thing I did there is I pressed backspace just to stop my units. Because if you click somewhere, they'll go around it and they'll assemble, but once they're in the right spot, you just hit backspace, they stop moving, and then they'll just immediately start firing. So, a little tip I picked up online from somebody in a custom scenario. And, right, I did make, because he was attacking up there beside my, whatever they were, the archery ranges, I was making some crossbows up there, but they really weren't doing any good up there, so I sent them back into my town. Now, sort of the plan is just put town centers all over the map. Boom up on my economy. Finally remembered my eco upgrades. Yeah, yikes, not good. And we're just gonna keep pushing blue here because I'm kind of tired of his knights coming in here. So I'm gonna get bowsaw. A 32-minute bowsaw is very late. That should have been up a long time ago. In fact, bowsaw probably 10 minutes ago would have been about right. Kind of right as I hit Castle Age. And so there's all the knights, we found them, and I'm just going to try to get a hill advantage here and take them down. Normally you'd probably want to keep all those crossbows together in one group so that you can focus fire, but in this case I'm not too worried about losing the crossbows, and I just want to cover as much of his economy as possible. The AI does overreact a little bit to when their units are under attack, and even just one crossbow will make 10 or 15 villagers run for cover. So at this point it becomes more about percent coverage of his town rather than keeping them together and getting that concentrated fire effect. And just keep them in little groups of 4 or 5 so they can maybe take out one knight that shows up. And I finally get a town center up in Yellow's base, and we'll just garrison that. It's maybe a little aggressive, but I haven't seen any kind of siege from Yellow at this point. And now I'm extra nervous about eco upgrades. And I noticed he destroyed my forward market that was there, that was part of my wall, so now I gotta build a new one. But it's alright, it's not a big deal. I'm feeling pretty in control of this game at this point. You can see by the scores. It's going alright, and so red was eliminated pretty much right away with the first 6 archers. And yellow took a little bit more work with about 20 crossbows maybe, but even then it didn't put up as much of a fight as I was hoping once I got rid of that first group of maybe 5 knights. I mean, I don't even think he can get rid of the town center I've got right in his face here, but he has stolen quite a few of my crossbows with his monks, so I'm going to make some skirmishers, which I think are the right call, because they still give me the eco harassment, but in a bit more cost efficient way in terms of the conversions. And here he's going to try to get this. I have the hill advantage, but he manages to get it anyway, so maybe the monks aren't so bad against the crossbows. I don't know, I still think it's a pretty bad call. And at this point it's looking pretty good. I mean, I've got his whole farming economy basically in shambles. I don't know where his whole wood economy is, but I know a good part of it's in trouble. And these eco upgrades, guys, those should have come in a long time ago. I'm not advocating to pick those up at 35 minutes. And more town centers. I really don't need that many town centers. They're not really for villagers. I mean, if I can make villagers with them, great. But it's more just to protect particular resources. And in a more competitive game, maybe like a 1 versus 1 against a human online, I probably wouldn't be going for this many town centers. They're generally not worth the investment if you're doing what I'm doing and just leaving them out there idle. And these guys should be making houses. What am I doing? Oh, quit making a castle. Make houses. Yeah, anyway, I was just gonna drop a castle in his face. And good luck with his monks against that castle, right? And so yeah, one of them will start making houses. And his whole army is basically the one that he just converted from me. And I'm just jumping around queuing those up, and that's pressing HC, HC. The H jumps to a town center, and C queues up the next villager. And Blue's just confused about life right now. Just the villagers kind of garrisoning, ungarrisoning, because there's nothing his town center can shoot. And not keeping up with my university upgrades. Finally getting ballistics, that was the whole point of that university. So I'm kind of forgetting some stuff, and that gold is way overcrowded. I have way too much gold. I've had way too much gold for most of this game. And sort of part of the market, the point of that was to rebalance that, and just sort of forgot. So as he was shooting that skirmisher, so we managed to convert a skirmisher up there at the top with like 1 HP. Okay, and I'm just standing under the town center. I don't really care at this point. We're gonna make some Shotel warriors. I have decided. So Shotel warriors, kind of a strange unit because they're so weak to arrow fire, but they have so much attack that if you get even like 10 or 15 of them and you get that arson tech for extra attack against buildings, you just rush in, take out town center, military buildings, houses, whatever you want. And I'm feeling kind of rich for stone right now, so I'm just going to put down a tower on that wood line. And I don't know what I'm looking around for. And so I decide, you know what, I think yellow's out of this right now. I think we're just gonna go pressure blue. So I send those villagers, we're gonna go down, we're gonna build a house, not a house, build a castle right on that hill. And this is perfect because, and this is one sort of exploit against the AI, is if you're firing at its units, it'll try to garrison them, but if the town center can't shoot at anything of yours, it'll ungarrison them. So they just get stuck in this little loop of being under attack, so they try to garrison, there's nothing to shoot, so then they ungarrison. And they basically get stuck in that cycle forever. Whereas real players, that doesn't happen, obviously. And kudos for the attempt on the monk strategy, and I feel like I kind of messed up yellow by taking him off gold so quickly, and while he was also going for a monk strategy. So he ended up not really being able to afford the one unit he's trying to make, and AIs just get in that sort of mindset of they're making one particular unit and they just make that one. And there we go, so yellow gives up, losing too many villagers. Didn't even get a chance to use my Shotel warriors. So I'm still committed to Shotel warriors, so we're just going to use them against blue. And this is kind of a mess here. I just have to deal with this for a sec. I probably should queue up some farms. And this mass movement of villagers, I don't know what the plan is, but they're just going to get shot. So I don't know what that plan was. The battering ram was a nice idea, it just needed a few units to protect it. And villagers are pretty good at fighting off rams, although Shotel warriors are better. So I'm just going to queue up a bunch of those, and we're just going to stream, and look how fast these units come out. I think at this point it's 4 seconds per unit, because I have the Royal Air technology, which is pretty fast. And then in Imperial Age it's going to be 3 seconds once I get conscription. And with 2 castles, that basically means I get a new unit every 1.5 seconds. So blue knows what's up, and he says, screw that, I'm out. GG. Didn't have time to GG that one. But yeah, 3 hardest AI at once. I was a little surprised. It didn't feel that crazy. I mean, there were a couple of points with like the knights and stuff. But overall, it was pretty manageable, I thought, and I think the key to that was just taking out one of them really quickly and then making sure I was always moving on to the next. And of course there it does say that I was using the cheat codes. That was because I was checking that location of the sheep. And had I known I was going to stick with this game, I just wouldn't have done that. But there it is, so no achievement or anything. And lots of units killed, that's what archers do. Lots of resources collected, it's because I garrisoned most of their economies. And never went Imperial Age, how about that? So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, maybe you learned something about playing the AI or Archer Rush or Ethiopians, or at the least found it sort of entertaining. I get requests for gameplays all the time, so hopefully this makes a few of you guys happy. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.